25.
Oh, in the nick of time.
I lost my spotlight. Just gotta do that and then he just shows up.
All right, guys good?
We're just starting.
Okay. Call order, pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Present.
Trustee Sell is absent. Trustee Unger is absent. Trustee Beckmeyer? Trustee McFall?
Here.
Trustee Olet?
Here.
President Zabrowski?
Here. Thank you. Looking for approval of minutes, regular board meeting, May 20th, 2025.
I'd like to make a motion for the village board to approve the regular board meeting minutes, May 20th, 2025. We've had them issued to us prior and a chance for review.
Second the motion?
Any discussion?
Roll call.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye, thank you. All right, new communications. I'm going to read this one, but we are not presenting it today. Item A, 25-10, proclamation P 2025-06, proclaiming June 11th, 2025 as Kathy Fern Day in the Village in Greendale in honor of her retirement and over 40 years of service in the Greendale community.
He'll just be presented a different day.
Okay, yeah, to be presented another day. Next one, item B, number 25-11, proclamation P 2025-07, proclaiming June 26, 2025 as Village Club Day in the Village of Greendale in honor of its 65th anniversary. That's pretty awesome. All right, manager is going to read this here for us.
I believe Mike Connor is.
Mike Connor's here?
Okay. Yeah, I'll read this and then you can present it to Mike.
Okay.
So this is proclamation 2025-07, proclaiming June 26, 2025 as the Village Club Day in honor of their 65th anniversary. Whereas in 2025, the Village Club, Inc. celebrates its 65th anniversary as a cherished institution rooted in the history, recreation, and community spirit of the Village of Greendale. And whereas just 20 years after the Village of Greendale was incorporated, a visionary group of residents joined together around the idea of creating a dedicated swimming and tennis club for the enjoyment of Greendale community. And whereas that founding group purchased 9 acres of land near the Root River Parkway, west of Greendale High School, successfully raising the funds to install a pool and tennis courts, opening the club on July 4th, 1960. And whereas the Village Club, Inc. is a not-for-profit, member-owned 501c7 organization that fosters inclusive recreational engagement with membership now spanning beyond Greendale to communities throughout southeastern Wisconsin. And whereas the Village Club remains a testament to community initiative, recreation, and belonging for Greendale and the greater region, now therefore be resolved that the Village President proclaims June 26, 2025 as the Village Club Day in the Village of Greendale in recognition and celebration of 65 years of community recreation, inclusiveness, and tradition.
Long time.
I know, right? That's why I wanted to ask. 16 years. You can only be president for 1 or 2 years. Somebody else to take the term as president. So I'm not president, but they want to be. You know. Oh, I see.
Thank you.
All right.
On behalf of the board of directors, the management team, and the membership.
Mike, if you wouldn't mind at the podium, just so that everybody can hear from.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, thanks.
We don't have all this when we have our board meeting. On behalf of the board of directors, the management team, and the membership, thanks much. This club is really just an excellent, safe, clean place for families. We have about 500 members right now, memberships. 70% of that is families. About 25% are senior memberships. That's our least expensive if you're age 55 or older. then we have some singles, some couples, and a couple of interesting things I just learned. Do you remember Pete Sampras, the tennis player? His coach, Tim Gullickson, is from Greendale. He was an instructor at the Village Club. But just so there's a lot of other details, but this makes us happy. We have a board meeting on Sunday, and I'll present this. So,
Nice.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Thanks.
All right, we have two items on the public hearing today, and so I'll read this up, and then you can come up and speak for either one that you would like. Whenever it is most practical for the board and persons interested in the public hearing items, the board will act on the public hearing immediately following the conduct of the public hearings rather than later on the agenda. Item A, BOT 25-55, discussion necessary action on an ordinance amending the Village of Greendale zoning map, section 17.102, to rezone tax key number 666-9999-002 from R5 residential to P Park District, PC 25-07. Next item, B, BOT 25-56, discussion necessary action regarding the proposed land swap involving the Village of Greendale transferring Rudimont Nature Preserve tax parcel 666-9999-002 to Milwaukee County in exchange for the portion of the Dale Creek Parkway, tax parcel 651-9988-002, located between Grange and Southway, PC 25-05. I will open these up. Anybody wishing to speak on either of these items? Yep, if you, name and address. Just name and address, please, for the record, thank you.
Good evening, my name is Jeff Richland. Address is 4945 Sussex Lane, neighbor of Donna, right across the street. And our property backs up to the Grudemont Nature Preserve, so our lot line shares with Grudemont. So I've read the literature coming into this and all the information relative. Donna, thank you very much for providing details so I could understand a little bit more about the proposed changes. My question to the board is, do you have a understanding of the county's intent with the preserve? The way it reads, the intent is to keep it as a park or classified as a park, which includes the inability to ever build on it, either commercially or residentially. It also has restrictions, as I understand it, for cell tower or anything associated with that type of infrastructure, cell tower. That also seems very straightforward. My concern is if you have been in the Grudemont Nature Preserve, you would know it is a true preserve, meaning there's no deliberate paths. Of course, there are foot traffic paths just from people passing through it. But does the county have any intent to improve it in a way that introduce things like asphalt, paved walking trails, similar to what you might see at Scout Lake?
Yeah, do we want to address questions like after the public hearing, or should we address it during the public hearing?
You can address it now.
Okay. Yes, so thank you for that question. The county has relayed no intent with the land other than to maintain it as a nature preserve, and they have a department that does conservation type of activities so that it would be included within other areas like that in the county that they would do conservation type of stuff, but they have no intent to do any structures, any pathways, anything like that. I suppose at a future time, maybe they'll want to do something that would enhance it like a pathway, but they're not, able to build structures or that type of thing. So, what's been communicated with us, the county's intent in the land swap and acquiring the property is they're more interested in owning a property like that where their maintenance responsibilities are little to none versus the Dale Creek Parkway where their maintenance responsibilities have been limited to the creek bed itself, but even that they don't have the resources to regularly keep up with. So from the county's perspective, they are they will have less maintenance responsibilities with that property, and that is what they've communicated as being the driving force for doing the transfer.
Got it, okay. Second follow-up question is just relative to either assurance or guarantee. I would prefer the word guarantee, that it won't be at some point rezoned for commercial or residential. And the reason I ask is very specific. My wife Anna, who's sitting next to me, her father built the home that we now own and live in. And since they purchased that lot, when they purchased the lot, it was under the exact pretense that Grudemont would never be developed commercially or residentially. I understand things may change or such, but from a legal standpoint, is there anything binding that prevents the county from ever changing that status on their own without the input of either residents or other governing agencies?
Yeah, so you can never guarantee anything, in perpetuity, but we have as strong restrictions as we can. Basically, the law allows you a 40-year statute of limitations as far as enforceable covenants. So it's starting whenever it's approved that we'll have 40 years of guaranteed as a park with all the active restrictions, but that's as best as we can guarantee so far. If they want to do something post 40 years, they can either renew what the restrictions are currently or change it. We won't have any control after 40 years.
So that'll be the problem of my children.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
And on that note, we are also on tonight's agenda, the village wanted to rezone that property as park because it has been zoned as R5 residential, which is a multifamily residential. And so to add another layer, rezoning that as park. And so if at a future time or after the 40 years, the county wanted to do something with that land, it would still take the village's approval of something other than a park use to it, so.
So then there is a layer of governance that still remains intact from the village. So there would be some form similar to this that would occur 40 years from now.
Correct.
Okay. Then I will flip to the Dale Creek, and just one personal note or question. With the village taking over Dale Creek, I believe that also includes the area where there is a bridge that enters Dale Creek. Correct?
The bridge that enters.
There's a wooden cross bridge
The wooden one on that side.
Okay, yeah.
at Daffodil.
Yep.
At Daffodil. The reason I ask personally is because my son is an Eagle Scout, and we actually built that bridge. So my reason for asking is the county has done nothing to maintain it, and there are rotted wood. So I will go on record to say if that needs to be replaced, I will gladly get a crew back together because we built the bridge and we have a personal investment. If you look on either end of the bridge, there's a placard in dedication to my son who built the bridge with his Eagle Scout project. So I would ask and encourage that with this land swap, the village now has ownership. So please, it's more of a plea to maintain that bridge. It should last many, many years. And your predecessor, Todd Michaels, and I worked together to put that together. So there's a side benefit on a personal note.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great information.
Thank you.
Joe Russ, 5599 Basswood Street. As that parcel along Dale Creek, behind my house, that, over by Northway, my grandma sold it to the county, I believe, when the government sold it to the residents. Over the last 30-some years, we've been told different stories as to ownership of who owns what. First, it was the county owned the sidewalk and the creek. That came from Kathy Oshiseski, the former county supervisor for here, when they widened that pathway. Sometime between then and 10 years ago, the sidewalk apparently became the village's responsibility. The creek was still the county's responsibility. My question is, when did that transfer, if it was a true transfer, occur? I have no trouble with the village taking over Dale Creek. I spent a lot of time in that section of Dale Creek growing up. But I'm just curious, looking back historically, when did the village ever officially take over the path from the creek? Or were those always two separate, or always the same entity, and the village just maintained it?
Anybody know the history on that? The only documents I've seen show the county was responsible for the creek bed itself, and then the village, and that dated back to the lease was from 1996 or 1997, around that time. So I don't recall seeing anything where that changed. I don't know if our director, Damask, know of anything else on that.
So the agreement that I know of that's always been in place, like Manager Hawes said, from 1986 or 97, is that the county was responsible 20 feet from center each way of the creek. The village was responsible for maintenance as far as grass, plowing the sidewalk, anything beyond that 20 feet. Technically, the county still owned it, but the maintenance agreement was on the village for anything outside that 20 feet right away.
Okay, so it was a maintenance agreement. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else on either of these items? I see none. I will close it. All right. So that just- Okay. Since comments, persons wishing to address the board are asked to state their name and address for the record and limit their comments to only one time and limit their comments to 3 minutes or 5 minutes if representing a group of persons. Since comments shall be limited to a period not to exceed 30 minutes, public comments should be addressed to the village board as a body. Any questions or comments directed to any individual trustee or staff person will be deemed out of order. Please note the village board can only discuss matters listed on the agenda. All right, we'll open this up.
Hi, Jackie Kramer, 5729 Clover Lane. I was very grateful to see that the sidewalk going from the War Memorial to Sendex is back up for reconsideration. I live on Clover Lane. I take that road sometimes multiple times a day. And I do see people walking on the sidewalk in the winter. I see them walking in the road. I understand everyone's concerns about traffic and bikes and things like that. Just 2 days ago, I saw 2 bikes come down from Loomis Road. They cut into the Sendex parking lot and then come out, and then I saw them go across the street and get back on by Walgreens, which isn't exactly safe either. So I am grateful that you are bringing this back up again. I think it is a safety issue for pedestrians on that stretch of grass, and I hope that you pass it tonight. Thank you. Okay.
Cindy Birmingham, 5601 Bramble Court, Greendale. Well, no, Greendale. Same issue, actually, the sidewalk going there. I was actually driving from Pick and Save, coming off of Loomis, turning that way to get onto Southway, past Sendex, and then to get quickly onto Broad Street. There was a man walking, it was a rainy day, and I was driving, and he was walking in the street. He blended in, it was raining, and had I not been cognizant of him, I could have easily hit him. And I slowed down to kind of watch, and the minute the sidewalk was there, he did get on the sidewalk. He just didn't want to get his tennis shoes wet. So whether it's snow, rain, tall grass, leaves, just that area right there causes a lot of people to have to go into the street. And with cars moving back and forth, I think it's a dangerous area for pedestrians. And I think it would be a good spot to create a sidewalk from just that portion to keep the safety, especially if students are going that way also. We have people that are, kids in their back seat and just one distraction, or elderly, or just people who are inattentive drivers. And it would take just one person to hit somebody, and I'd hate to be that. Even I wasn't inattentive that day, and I'd hate to hit somebody and have someone have some major injury just because they were in the street because we didn't provide a sidewalk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Grogan, 4962 Sutton Lane. Nice to see you all. Missing Trustee Unger tonight. I first want to thank you for your service to the village board. You definitely have one of the most stressful, lowest paid jobs, part-time jobs, next to the school board. I'm coming for two reasons. One, as I said, I live on Sutton Lane, and one of my neighbors yelled across on one of the days it wasn't raining, sometime in May, that, hey, you're on the school board, aren't you? I said, no, I'm not on the school board anymore. He said, well, what's going on with this road? Can you talk to someone on the school board? I said, the school board's not in charge of the roads, it's the village board. So I'm here also on behalf of some Sutton Lane residents to ask for an update on I don't know if I know it rained all of April and most of May, but the part of Sutton that's torn up, I don't know if it was like ancient Indian burial grounds or something, but we did get a lightning strike on Sutton Lane after you were there. So if there's any update on that road, we would love to have it in writing by mail if possible. Secondly, I'm here to talk about agenda item 8D. I'm nicknaming it the Hone Bridge sidewalk kind of the sidewalk that goes to nowhere. I applaud your vibrant debate and discussion. I followed the Facebook uncensored discussion. I listened to your meeting. I agree with President Zabrowski's comments from that meeting, Village Manager Hawes, Trustee McFall, and the Chief of Police, that safety is generally increased when sidewalks are added. Trustee Unger raised an excellent point, that road repair in Greendale is a higher priority than adding more sidewalks to the community. I think Greendale ranks like number 3 in the state for sidewalks. But that said, if it would be cheaper to put a sidewalk in now, allowing for safer exits I'm thinking of the traffic coming from the village. All the people walking out after fireworks and different events in the village, then waiting 20 years as part of this Ramsey Road project, then I encourage you to please vote yes on item 8D. Thank you so much.
Yes, Mark Zaluski, 8803 Green Hill Lane, also Greendale, obviously. I was not planning on mentioning this, but as the sidewalk project came up tonight in a number of comments, I want to just express my opinion that I'm also in favor of it. I believe the sidewalk should be there for safety. It looked to me from the information that somehow the sidewalk would end at Clover Lane and leave a small section in front of the church with no sidewalk, and I hope that's not the case, that it's continued all the way to the sidewalk and around the corner. Okay, that's good. But the reason for my comments today are regarding the signage that we've experienced on Garden Way. There had been some issues brought up before members of the board and village employees regarding excessive speed along Garden Way, and we were looking for a solution to that problem. The solution apparently is that we put up 24 walkway signs all up and down the street, which, A, we didn't think was an appropriate solution to the problem, but B, when we voiced our objection or wanted someone to take a look at that problem a little more in depth, found out that when we woke up this morning, the signs were there. And the fact that they mysteriously appeared on the day before the board meeting seemed to me a little bit suspicious. I don't think it's going to solve the problem. I think some thought should have gone into it, a little deeper thought than what had happened. And when we brought it up and they said, well, we can't eliminate just one walkway, we have to put signage on all the walkways, it occurred to me to drive around the village and realize that Southway has got 30 different crosswalks, or Eastway, 30 different crosswalks. There's not a single sign on any of them. South 60th Street off Ramsey has about 5. There's not a crosswalk sign on any of them. So I think, again, I'll just express my disappointment. The deed is done. I'm not sure that we're going to remove the signs anytime soon, but the way it happened, I think, was a little disturbing. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Russ, 5599-97 Basswood Street. I have mixed feelings about the sidewalk. First of all, why wasn't there to begin with? Well, there was nothing there before the fire station was relocated there. No offense to the fire department, but nobody had a reason to walk. Then along came Syndex and offered the village a good chunk of change for that lot. The board, with a lack of planning of such things, took the money and ran to build a new fire station, but never bothered to think of how the residents would get there in a walking community as Greendale, or plan for it. Shocking. Had you just put a car wash there, this would be a moot point, and nobody would walk through a car wash. But I digress. Here we are now, and how do we pay for it? It would have been nice had, say, as part of the development agreement you had with Syndex, have them pay for it as a benefit them with foot traffic, but that would have required some forward planning and looking past it just to check for the property, something this board's not always good at. I'd prefer to see it done next year, so it can be in next year's budget. Keep in mind that since you don't like following your own budget, we're already close to $500,000 in the hole in unapproved expenditures, and it's only June. I believe in rough numbers, $400,000 for the water sewer mains industrial park and at least another $200,000 plus for the bathrooms by the gazebo. Have that if you get the grant. Have also been spent so far. And let's not forget the $150,000 pulled from this year's park budget to cover the grant you didn't get for the community center park, but still had to spend the money on. From a state safety standpoint, it needs to be done. Please try to actually budget for it though. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tessa Malio, and my address is 5588 Municipal Square, so I had a really great commute here tonight. I was so excited to see the proposed sidewalk addition on the agenda, as this is something that I've talked about with many friends and other parents of young children in Greendale. You may have received an email from me today already about this, but I wanted to attend tonight just to voice in person, again, my strong support, and I know of many others as well, of adding a sidewalk on the north side of the street as soon as is feasible. One of the many wonderful things about living in the village since the addition of Syndex to our community is that walkability to a quality grocery store. However, that walk is currently made both inconvenient and dangerous by the lack of a sidewalk on the north side of the street. When I and my family are walking to Syndex, I frequently see individuals and families either crossing Southway to the south side, only to dash back across the street with, not in a designated crosswalk from the Walgreens parking lot entrance to the Syndex one, or walking in the grass on the north side of the street, which is not accessible to people with strollers, wheelchairs, or other mobility issues. And while walking all the way up to the intersection at Loomis and Southway is an option, that intersection is busy, it adds distance, it is like multiple additional streets that you're crossing, especially like for younger kids and stuff. So extending the sidewalk on the north side of the street would increase safety and walkability in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? See none, I will close it. All right, standing committee reports, Trustee Barbian.
Thank you, President Zabrowski. We have a number of items on the Finance Committee for tonight. The first one, number one, discussion necessary action on an update to the 5-year Facilities Improvement Plan, FC 2525. The Finance Committee is recommending for the Village Board to approve the updated 5-year Facilities Improvement Plan as presented. This is one that we've talked about before. Just a couple of highlights, and then the manager can jump in, but it would be the Village Hall downspout disconnects, $40,000. Carpet replacement, $7,500 in this room. We'd be leaving a seal, correct? Okay. It includes the Public Works flow control, fiber connections, $304,000. This will be funded by the water utility. And Police Department has the LED light fixture replacement, $38,000. Generator replacement, $51,000. Community Learning Center has a carpet replacement of $98,000. This was all discussed prior, and did you want to add anything that maybe I've missed?
Nope, that's a great recap of the projects in there for 2026. We have projects outlined then for 2027 through 2030. And so at this time, looking for the board's support in approving the updated 5-year plan This plan will also be reviewed again around budget time, and then if we, whatever we adopt in it will then be budgeted for 2026 to move forward.
Okay, thank you. I have a second, and so I'm opening up for discussion. Anybody have any discussions on any of these improvements for next year? Going to be discussed at the budget. I see none, so I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Feckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee Bankful?
Aye.
Trustee Alette?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item is discussion of necessary action and update to the 5-year Park Improvement Plan, FC 2526. The Finance Committee is moving to approve these updated 5-year Parks Improvement Plan as presented.
Want to make a motion?
I need a second.
Okay, second.
In these particular cases, I'm going to go through these a little bit. That includes gazebo park permanent restrooms for $225,000. It's assuming a 50% match grant we might get from the DNR and a $30,000 in proceeds from sale of current restroom trailer. The next one is the Dale Creek Parkway tree removals, $62,500. A lot of dead ash trees, dead everything along Dale Creek has been taken care of. So that would be for that. Daffodil Park Playground Planning, $5,000. This allocation supports professional design assistance either through our village planner or another expert as we prepare the anticipated playground installation for 2027. Any updates more that you need to?
Nope, so this will be using our annual allocation of $150,000 per year for capital parks projects. So obviously, depending on that grant from the DNR, we'll learn the status of that in September. And then we'll be able to review the plan again in the fall when we do the annual budget, and we can decide on our final budget for 2026.
Thank you. I have a couple questions, but I'd first like to see if any other trustees have questions in regards to any of these. Trustee Feckmeyer, your hand went up.
So with Daffodil Park, that's proposed for 2027, otherwise we were going to do 150,000, because I don't remember the 300,000.
Yeah, the 300,000 is the total, and then that would be, the plan is to get apply for a matching grant of 150,000. So, if we don't get the grant, we would either decide not to do it at the $300,000 level, or as we did with the community center, if there was some really strong reason why we wanted to allocate more than 150,000, we could look at something like delaying the other projects or doing it as a 2-year project type of thing.
Okay, so that option then, and shouldn't the 5,000 be rolled into that instead of extra for that?
So, and that's something, so it's preliminary right now, right? The Daffodil Committee has not met yet. And so I know there's going to be a lot of discussions around different ideas around that playground. And so if this is an initial preliminary allocation for some planning assistance to guide that process, you could decide it's not necessary now or, when you get to the budget, but it was to earmark something, knowing that there's going to be some planning work going on. We may want to involve our village planner or a landscape architect or somebody to assist with that.
Okay, we're going to include the committee, the new form committee as well.
Yeah, the new form committee, right now, Sarah's trying to get a meeting together. Looks like they'll have their first meeting next month. And then we'll kind of see how that progresses. If there is a budgetary need for some professional planning assistance, that we can update this later this year.
Okay.
Trustee Alette, your hand was up.
Yes, didn't we talk about possibly having money from the Children's Garden to fund some of this? Did the Daffodil Park Playground Planning Committee receive any money from the Children's Garden? I thought we were going to see if some of that would be split off. We never did.
So we haven't I guess addressed that. I'm not aware of there being any money that was earmarked for the surrounding park area, but if there was, then we could determine if some money is available. I guess at the end of the day, whether it's the Children's Garden their account or if it's another village allocation, at the end of the day, it's all under the village. So if the village, I mean, right now, we're talking about allocating $5,000 towards these planning efforts, plus $150,000 in 2027. So we're looking at allocating $155,000 to Daffodil Park. And I don't know how much money offhand is in the Children's Garden account, but, this is a sizable amount that I'm not sure that we need to go through and figure out whether there's money that needs to be allocated from Children's Garden if we're already making these sizable investments, if that makes sense. So I guess we haven't gone through it in detail yet, if there's any money that should be transferred to this committee, but I would say there's a good amount of money here we'd be investing in the park regardless.
Did that answer your question, Trustee Olet? Okay. Other questions? I just have a couple of questions, comments. When we originally discussed this, the gazebo park permanent restrooms, if you remember, I voted against it. But I still have a problem in the sense that we're assuming we get a matching grant. If we don't get the grant, we're not doing this bathroom, or are we going to, what's our plan on that? Because I don't think we should be doing it if we don't get any matching grants. I don't really think we need it. As I said before, since we have a perfectly good bathroom trailer that's working fine and been using, and I just don't think now is the time to be looking to spend more money. That's a lot of money to be going in there when we do have roads that we can do, that's a couple of roads that we could do. I'd rather see the money allocated there. But what is your thought if we don't get the grant?
So we will revisit this plan again. We'll find out, should be by September, whether we got the grant. So we can revisit this plan again around budget time and decide whether we still want to go forward with this project or not without, with or without the grant funds. I don't know if everyone on the board feels the same way, that they don't want to do this project if we don't get the grant funds, or but we can have that discussion then. I mean, I think there's, as we made previously, there's a good case to be made that it would pay for itself if we're able to build this permanent restroom, because the amount of maintenance and time that goes into the temporary restroom trailer, setting it up for hours on the Fridays and then putting it away on the Mondays. Director Damask spoke to it last time. We could have, this all could be, we don't need to rehash all this now. We can see how the grant goes, but I think there's reasonable debate maybe still to be had if we don't get the grant on how we should proceed.
That's what if you remember, the vote was 6-1 against me, so I don't think the rest of the board feels that way.
And at that time, we didn't know, we still don't know where the grant will land.
But
yeah.
As long as I can support this, as long as there is if we don't get the grant, that there still is a discussion point and we just don't go ahead with this. And that's what I'm hearing from you.
Yep, definitely.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? And then I'll ask for a roll call.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Fickmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye.
Next item is the Finance Committee Internal Audit Review for bills presented for payment. Each month, this is rotated among all the trustees to pull at random ACH, P cards, and checks, and ask for the documentation and backup to support the purchase. This month went to Trustee Olet, and so the floor is yours.
Yes, I did do an audit of the P cards and the checks and the ACH payments, and they all checked out great.
Okay. Any questions for Trustee Olet? I thank you so much. And I believe the honor will go to President Zabrowski next month.
All right.
So, just can look forward to that anyway.
It's fun.
Next item is approval of accounts payable checks for payments. Finance Committee is recommending the board approve the accounts payable checks number 62954 to 63068 in the amount of $459,587.44, along with approval of the ACH payments for the month in the amount of $582,409.53, and the P card purchases in the amount of $92,588.50 $388.30 for total disbursement this month of $1,134,385.27. Do I have a second?
Second motion.
Any questions on any of these items at all? We've had a chance to look them over. I see no questions, therefore I would ask for a roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Alette?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye.
Next item on Finance Committee is status of accounts, April 30th, 2025. Stephanie, it's all yours.
2025 actuals are continuing to stay within budget. In April, we received the second of 4 portions of the general transportation aids, which is about $192,000. Interest earnings continue to stay high with an LGIP rate at 4.39%. And then one other revenue account I wanted to point out, which I put in that last Friday's report, was the fire department rescue calls. Last week, I submitted the 2023 supplemental Medicaid reimbursement cost report. And then this week I'll do for 2024. So right now I'm unsure of the dollar amount, but for that account, that was unbudgeted revenue, and there'll be a favorable dollar amount to our budget. And I will update you probably in the fall, we'll know that dollar amount. Also regarding the 2024 financial statements, our auditor will present them at the August 5th board meeting. It was a clean audit. In summary, the general fund expenses finished $491,000 under budget. Revenues finished $589,000 over budget, which totaled a favorable 24 fund balance variance of $1 million, which was added back to the fund balance. So are there any questions for 2024 or 2025?
You're saying that expenses were under budget?
Yes,
And
491,000 under budget. Revenues were 589.
The revenues were over budget.
Yes, total of $1 million added back to fund balance.
Awesome, that's looking really good. We should
Great.
continue doing that.
Any questions?
Yep, any questions at all? Thank you, Stephanie, well done. And please pass it over to the rest of your staff that makes that happen. President Zaborowski, that concludes the Finance Committee.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, Plan Commission, we had no meeting last month, but we have a meeting tomorrow. And then any other committees have anything to report on this evening? All right.
Health Board. I'd like to point out a couple of things on the Health Board. Again, they're always involved with different aspects. The radon test did really well, and they still have a few kits left for $10 you can purchase. If you haven't done it, and talking to the people watching on YouTube, hundreds of people, you may want to take a peek at that. People in Greendale do have radon problems, and take a check on it. Wanted to say that they're focusing a lot on the green market that's coming forward. First one is on the 21st, June, 8 to 12. And remember, it's this year being moved from down by in front of the gazebo area, where we have areas for bands underneath the gazebo, a few more shade trees and so forth. And it should be really good. They're already up between 50 and 70 vendors. Health Department's running that with the assistance of Jackie Schweitzer, and it's all looking really good. Any questions that you would have on that can be brought forward. So we're looking forward to that. That concludes the Health Department. Do you have anything under the subcommittee?
No updates.
Okay.
All right.
One thing from Park and Rec. Everybody is invited to the J.C. Park ribbon cutting on Wednesday, June 11th, 2025, of course, at 2:30 p.m. And again, special thanks to the Greendale School District, the Greendale Park and Rec, and also behind the scenes, Rod Damas and his crew for kind of giving a helping hand when things weren't just going like on time. So it was nice that our DPW kicked in a little help on there to get this project taken care of. And again, we're going to have a ribbon cutting on June 11th. So
What time is that again, Robbie?
June 11th at 2:30. That's it. From Park and Rec.
Public celebrations, anything? No? Okay. And then Public Works Committee. So you would take care of this then?
Yep.
All right. If you could bring back up
Yes.
the agenda item.
Yes, the discussion and necessary action regarding the extension of the sidewalk on the north side of Southway, from Southway Loomis Road intersection to Southway Clover intersection as part of the Southway Ramsey Street rehabilitation under PW 25-02. And then just to give you kind of some summary on it, is that at the May 20th meeting, the village engineer presented a cost estimate and extend the sidewalk along the north side of Southway to connect the existing sidewalk in front of the Greendale Community Church. I think that was kind of, people didn't really understand what we were trying to do or what was proposed. So it is from where the crosswalk is in front of the community church all the way to the crosswalk, or not the crosswalk, but to connect the sidewalk in front of Sendik's or alongside Sendik's, where it tees off to go into their parking lot, which has a crosswalk there. So it's that full sidewalk, so it's all connected. This presentation was also included with a review of safety concerns related to the sidewalk crossing the Sendik's driveway entrance. The board that night did not take action to proceed with the sidewalk design on May 20th. The motion was introduced, but failed in lack of a second. So here we are tonight. Also, too, another note is the estimate cost of to construct the full sidewalk running from the Greendale Community Church to the Southway Loomis intersection is $70,384. If included in the Southway Ramsey Street rehabilitation project, that's what the cost was if we would do that together. Also, a note from the engineer, his recommendation is to reconstruct the driveway entrance using concrete incorporated and defined concrete aprons and the sidewalk and standards. So I'm going to open this up for discussion, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Oh, go after him.
Ron?
Thank you. Great discussion we had last time. I've given this a lot of thought, and I actually spent over an hour and a half in Walgreens just watching people walk on the road and on the grass, and I watched the bicyclers, young people, create a lot of dangerous things on the side that Walgreens is on. I sat there for an hour and watched it after school. I think I have a proposal I'd like to toss out for discussion. I am for the sidewalk, and I believe that we should put that in. I think it would be beneficial, but I also hear the safety concerns. There's no doubt that that is a dangerous intersection. So is Walgreens across the street, particularly with bicyclers. What I saw at the time is every adult was careful riding their bike, and every younger person was irresponsible. I was only there for an hour, but that's the conclusion I drew. I would like to see us do the sidewalk, but as the sidewalk comes, because I know we can't put signs up, because if you put one sign up, you got to put them everywhere, and that the slabs that enter towards Sendik's, if those could be striped or painted a different color, let's say you're walking up there on a bicycle, and this is an idea that I just thought of, what if they were painted yellow, those two sections, or striped red or something, so that someone riding on a bicycle or walking will say, oh, this is danger, we're coming up. We ought to actually take a thought here before we walk across the entranceway to Sendik's. I think this would accomplish getting a sidewalk in, which I think the majority of the public wants, but I think also there's a segment of the population that feels it's dangerous with kids flying across with bicycles. We can't control everything, but in my opinion, something like that, up to the manager and, somebody would know how it would look. That way it's not a sign, we don't have to do it everywhere else in the village, but it would make the warning. It's like, hey, pay attention here. That's what I would like to propose, and I am for the sidewalk with that caveat.
I like your idea due to the fact that also, in the last meeting, our engineer said, if we do one sign, we'll have to do it for all. I know that Speedway is brought up, we'd have to do it there. I mean, if you look at the amount of aprons that we have going out into road traffic, and if they all wanted signs, we just heard a gentleman out today, or tonight, I should say, talking about the amount of signs in this area. So, not that I'm against signs, but I believe that could be an option. And, you know, my take on this is I've wanted this from day one, and it was kind of something I see every day driving to work, and I've always said you can't put a price on an injury or a life. So, Jason?
Thank you. I'm for this. I was for this last time, so I want to just start this off with, I move to approve the design of a sidewalk connection on the north side of Southway as part of the 2026 Southway Ramsey Road program. So I'd like to make a motion to approve that.
I'd be glad to second it if I can.
You can. And then discussion.
All right, so just for the record, I think it should be said that we all know what we're facing now. Fiscal cliff, as we all call it, coming up in the next few years. So that's where I'm coming from, the finance part of it. I think every expenditure from this point forward really has to be scrutinized. Can we do without this? What's the benefit of this? Where else could the money be spent? The two things that people always say is our taxes are too high and we don't fix the roads enough. That's the main two things. This helps some people, maybe not have to cross over and back. I live in the C section. This is me. I never thought twice. I walk across the street, walk up to Loomis, cross the street, and go to Sendix. Never thought twice. So I did ask some people in my neighborhood. First, I asked my husband, because he wasn't aware of this. I said, what do you think about spending $70,000 to put a sidewalk in there? He goes, I don't think so. I said, well, you know, when you walk to Sendix, do you cross the street? He goes, no, I just usually walk on the grass. Okay, so he walks on the grass. I asked some elderly neighbors, two ladies, same question. Do you think the village should spend $70,000 to add a sidewalk there? And they both said, no, we don't have any trouble. They walk all the time. Another neighbor said the same thing. It was funny that presented that way, all of them were like, not really. And they walked there all the time. But obviously, there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of people on Facebook that were for it. But I need to say the things about the maintenance, we have to maintain the sidewalk, the DPW, and there's a lot of obstacles. There's 2 trees, and that probably have to come down. There's a couple electrical boxes, there's signs, there's all kinds of obstacles. I just want to know if that's included in the $70,000, or are we going to have some hidden costs at all? Has all of that been considered?
Yeah, that's an all-inclusive estimate. Obviously, we'll know exact prices. The engineer usually is on the conservative side as far as estimates go.
They usually come under a little bit.
So I would note, so $70,000 is real money. It was mentioned before, you could resurface a small road section for $70,000. I think it's important to remember that in terms of the fiscal cliff is referring to operations. So our general budget, our general fund faces a projected fiscal cliff where our revenues aren't going to, where our expenses are going to outpace our revenues, our ability to tax for our operations. Separate from that are these capital projects, which we're able to levy as much taxes as we need to pay down the debt. So we have flexibility to, within reason, increase our debt levy to pay for capital projects. And so we don't have that same limitation. This does not affect our fiscal cliff for operations, but it is $70,000 that we are going to have to borrow for, and it does play into our financing plan. The 10-year financing plan that the village has right now, it considers these projects. It doesn't have the $70,000 in it, so that would be adjusted or added into our financing plan. Currently, our 2026 program is about a $3 million program. And our over 10 years, on average, we have about a $3 million investment each year. And I think that's something where we're trying to balance between what we, taxpayers want to pay versus keeping up with our roads. And and we can always revisit that, but it's kind of our sweet spot as far as, charging an appropriate amount for investing into the roads. So $70,000 is about 2% of the $3 million program. It won't have a material impact probably on, the typical homeowner, the repayment of the debt over those years. But it is a matter of priorities. And so if you do feel that a sidewalk is not as important as reinvesting in other roads, then that's certainly a valuable policy position. So I just want to make that point clear that it plays into the debt financing side versus the general fund side, which is what, when we talk about the fiscal cliff, that, we're concerned about revenues and expenditures for operations.
Well, I do see, so $3 million is going to be shrinking in years. I was talking to Rod about this project, and asphalt has doubled in the last year. So, and another way to look at it, okay, it'll cost us another $11,000 if we do it in the future, but likely way more than $11,000 because everything's going up. We're not seeing a change in that yet since, before the COVID. So, kind of like to look at it this way, what's the benefit to the cost? And it's kind of, it's kind of equal. There's some benefit, not a ton, because a lot of people, the kids come, they're on the south side, they're still going to cross over, they're still going to not use they're going to cross where there's no crosswalk or whatever. So it's a little safer in some ways, but that's always going to be a tough corner.
Donna?
Just wanted to say that I did receive a lot of calls, emails, texts regarding this issue. Some were for the sidewalk, some were against it. A lot of people wanted their roads fixed in front of their house. They wanted their sidewalk fixed in front of their house, all from different sections. Surprisingly, I've also received a fair amount of calls asking us to extend the sidewalk on the north side of Broad Street all the way to your building by J&J, because they said if we're going to be extending it, it's just going to cut right off. I see then it's going to be really going into people's yards, so I don't know if that's something we'd want to consider down the road. I was told to bring that up, so I'm just requesting that. And I did ask our safety expert, our police chief, and he said that that would be a safe option. That was my big concern, is the bicycle riders going down that street right in front of, Sendik's. And I do wish that we could put some kind of a warning sign that says, something to them so they would slow down, but I understand we can't do that. Therefore, I would support the project for, not out of budget expense, but to go into the 2026 budget.
Ron?
I have a point of clarification. We didn't really discuss, Rob said he was on board with me doing something with the sidewalks. Your motion as presented, did that also include having our engineer or Rod look into doing something with the sidewalk, as I suggested, or was the motion without that?
I guess, are you fine with that, Rod?
So pavement marking is pretty much standard. Color coding the sidewalk in different colors or red or anything like that is really not what you want to do. White and yellow are the signs of traffic. So, white is passing, yellow means you don't pass. So you want to keep that beyond that portion of sidewalk. The one thing I want to mention is in regards to the signage and people pulling in, with the driveway approach being redone in concrete, it's going to be much more aggressive than it is now. So right now, it's an asphalt approach going right into the street. This is going to be pitched more on an angle, flatten out with a sidewalk, and then go back up. So you are going to have to slow down quite a bit to get into that parking lot. So that is going to be a deterrent right there for anybody that's in that crosswalk. You're supposed to yield for any pedestrian in a crosswalk. The state law is not stop for a pedestrian in a crosswalk, it's yield. So as that person is attempting to cross that walk, you are supposed to yield in that intersection. There will be a stop sign coming out of Sendik's, coming onto Southway, and we will additionally stripe that with a stop bar, which would be in retroreflective light.
I understand all that. What I was, not so much the cars have to stop pedestrians, I was looking for some marker on the sidewalk for the pedestrians to also know that that's a dangerous spot. So you have the cars from what your perspective, but also people walking or children on bicycles will notice something. That's what I was referring to, not the other way. I know cars have to stop.
Personally, I've never seen it. I mean, we don't pavement mark sidewalks throughout an approach.
But it could be looked at.
We can look at it, but like I said, I've never seen it. I wouldn't make that a motion to make a final decision. It's something we could look at, but I wouldn't have it in the motion to say if it isn't feasible, then don't do the sidewalk.
We've had a couple conversations with the village engineer about this and kind of, what can we do to enhance safety? He talked about it a bit last time, and he's going to stick to the standards he's going to stick to what's a standard approach to it. And so I can tell you right now, he's going to say that that's not a standard thing and he would not recommend doing it. What he recommends is the stop bar and the types of things that Rod talked about. But, if you don't follow the standards, then it creates confusion, it creates inconsistencies throughout the community. So as staff, Director Mask and I, we're gonna fall in line with what the village engineer at least recommends.
I truly like what the director just told us, is that approach is gonna be redone and restructured, and that makes me feel a lot better knowing that. And then we, like you said, it's interesting on how we talk about bikes being on this, but when I first thought about this, to bring this to the board, is that I see people walking, and it wasn't so much during the summertime, because we have grass over there, but it was during the winter time when people were walking, and the snow was covering the curb, and they weren't walking in the snow, because of course you're not gonna walk in the snow, and they were walking in the road. So I think it's a win-win, and again, I've been for this from day one. It's a win-win for the bicyclers, for the walkers, and it's just a good connection to fill in that gap, so that's just my opinion. So, Donna.
One more thing. A homeowner asked me who is going to be responsible for shoveling that. Is that going to be on DPW now, or is that the homeowner's responsibility? Who would that go to?
I'll give that to Rod.
So currently, that small segment that is just east of Sendik's entrance, they currently do that. If the sidewalk would get installed, we would maintain it, because basically our machine to get on that portion, which would be west, would be village responsibility. We would just start at Loomis and just work our way west, so.
And fix it when it sinks in.
Right.
I will still support the sidewalk, but I would just like to stay on record. I hope that we do look at something. We talk all across, whether it's standard or not, I could care least personally. I think that I've witnessed and very good points in the last meeting about potential safety. And if it's just putting a couple of stripes on there, I think that we should be looking out for bicyclers, because that's what I saw. And to just dismiss it because it's not standard, I think is wrong. If something ends up happening there, and then they look back at the board and say, oh yeah, maybe this would have stopped something and we just ignored it, I think that's a bad choice. So I'll support it, but I would like it to be that's just me. I would like to have that included, to be looked at for something like that. I don't think we should just pass this by because it's not standard. That doesn't make any sense to me. That's it.
Colleen?
Part of not being standard is no one's going to know what it means. The standards is why you know what it means. All of a sudden you see a bunch of paint on the sidewalk. I wonder what that's all about. I don't know if it's going to slow anybody down. I would stick with the standards, but twice we've had people since I've been on the board for sidewalks. 84th Street, the gentleman was very passionate about that because he walks there all the time and it's not safe in the parkway in 84th between Edgerton and Grange. And then another person came about, or they might have wrote us a letter about, they walk on 92nd Street between Grange and south past Grange. And, there's not even a shoulder there. And so there's other unsafe places as well. And it's not apples to apples because obviously this is people going to a store to shop. But I just want to say we've said no before.
Chief?
I'm just going to kind of go off of what Rod said, and the thing about being standard is if you put something down on a sidewalk that nobody's seen before, and let's say it's a person on a bike, and I'm riding my bike and I look down to read what's on the sidewalk, and I don't look up, and a car comes, you're not paying attention. It is something completely different than I've ever seen, and we don't do anywhere else in the village. I'd be more concerned about doing something different in one location because it's so out of the norm. So, that's just my opinion. Somebody on a bike is moving pretty fast. They look down, they're not looking up. That's my concern.
Anybody else?
So I'm going to go with what Rod said. I feel comfortable with what he's doing, and actually, now that Ryan said that, I would not want that personally, because he's right, if someone does look down and then there's cars and then they're confused at what's going on, I think that we could actually be doing something worse. I do agree with that. So I would want the motion to stay with how we are doing it.
Okay, understood.
Creative.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do it everywhere else. Maybe we're onto something here.
Just got to change that federal manual or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not like we can.
Can I get a roll call?
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Alette?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
All right. You got a sidewalk.
Now to my next project.
All right, moving on. Old business, board and committee appointments. I have two here. Appoint Trustee McFall, Chairman of Daffodil Park Planning Committee, and then appoint Kathy Vincent to the Children's Garden Committee. Looking to get those approved.
I'd make a motion to affirm the two nominees that President Zabrowski has put forward.
Second motion?
Any other discussion?
So I have a question. I did read through the bylaws for the Children's Garden, but is there I know they meet monthly, is there a minimum how many meetings you are required to attend? Or how many you can't miss? I'm just
It's a good question. It came up.
Kathy Vincent's so busy.
Well, it's not specified in the ordinance. That's a little later on this agenda. There was some information within the bylaws that we adopted at the last meeting that talked about some general expectations, but did not set any type of specific attendance requirements. Pam, do you remember anything about attendance requirements of voting members? Not to put you on the spot.
We didn't talk about that. That wasn't established. And to your point, we were still waiting for that other person to say whether they would be an active member or not.
Oh, okay.
And so that person has said yes, they will.
Okay.
And so we would be able, if that is a concern, be able to still have that person, Kathy, in attendance, but perhaps not voting. Does that make the difference?
Well, so I understand she's willing or she's able to be a voting member, or she's not sure.
The next person, Kathy or this other gal?
Kathy.
She is able, according to her, to be a voting member, yes.
Okay.
And people are appointed every year? You review it every year?
It's like every one.
So, and actually that'll be on the ordinance tonight, so we're clarifying if they're going to be 3-year terms. Now they're starting on staggered terms as of how they're starting now, and I don't remember, do you remember, is the open position a 1, 2, or 3-year term? Oh, we haven't assigned, okay. Wasn't it going to be?
The other one we did not.
Yeah. I thought we were going to do both of them alphabetical then. Okay. So, I guess as the chair, Pam, are you recommending Kathy Vincent, or do we need to come back? Are you still working on that recommendation?
I would be willing to recommend Kathy.
Okay.
How about this? I'm not quite sure how legit, how this works yet, but I would be willing to talk to Kathy, tell her some of the concerns. I think I can be very candid about that, and then ask if she's comfortable really committing, and also approach this other gal. I mean, how should I go about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I didn't mean to, I guess I misunderstood that there was a recommendation coming to the village president on that. So if you want to take some additional time and then get back to the village president just to make sure, and then we could, at a future meeting, bring that back. That works.
I mean, I don't want to hold up things. We're so happy about, having this in place. So I'm happy to take a recommendation. I mean, in this case, I know there won't be hurt feelings. It won't be substituting one person is better than another. It would work out fairly.
Do you want to just get back to me with who you want it to be?
Sure.
After you talk to both of them?
Is that okay?
Yeah, that totally works. We can just do it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think we'll lose any time with that. All right. So then you're welcome. We'll just strike Kathy and then Trustee McFall.
Well, I think she'd be a good addition. It's just that somebody that's that busy, then I'd rather see somebody that can be more involved.
Okay.
If that's the case.
So I have moved to affirm Trustee McFall, and I'm removing Kathy temporarily. And I need a second on that.
Okay. I guess I'm just confused that, didn't Kathy express interest that she wanted to be on here? I mean,
I have no idea.
I think, let's give Pam opportunity
Okay.
to sort through it and then get back to village president on it.
Okay. Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Abstain.
Well done.
Trustee Olet?
For yourself.
Aye.
President Zaborowski?
Aye, thank you. All right, new business.
For a second, I was like, wait.
Item A, BOT 2555, discussion and necessary action on an ordinance amending the Village of Greendale zoning map, section 17-10-2, to rezone the tax key number 666-9999-002 from R5 General Residential District to P Park District, PC 25-07.
So we discussed briefly during the public hearing portion, the proposal is to rezone the Grudemont Nature Preserve property from R5 multifamily residence to the P Park District to help ensure its long-term preservation and continued use as park open space or public open space. This was reviewed by the Plan Commission on May 7th and was recommended for approval. The proposed rezoning reflects the existing and intended use of the site and is consistent with the village's comprehensive plan. Specifically, the comprehensive plan states, calls for the preservation of open space within Neighborhood 5, which is where this is located. And the current use of the property is consistent with that P Park zoning designation. And there's no conflicts with the existing zoning or other village ordinances related to the proposed change. So staff's recommendation is to approve the rezoning as outlined in the ordinance in your packet.
Amit? Sure. I'd like to make a motion for the village board to approve the ordinance amending the village Greendale zoning map, section 1710-2, to rezone the tax key number 666-9999-002 to the Park District.
Second motion.
Any other discussion?
Just glad it's going to be zone park.
Yep, that's awesome. All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Affirmative.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zaborowski?
Aye, thank you. Item B, BOT 2556, discussion and necessary action regarding the proposed land swap and restrictive covenants involving the Village of Greendale transferring Grudemont Nature Preserve, tax parcel 666-9999-002 to Milwaukee County in exchange for a portion of Dale Creek Parkway, tax parcel 651-9988-002 located between Grange Avenue and Southway, PC 25-05.
So as we've discussed previously, we have a proposal to swap the land, which is the Grudemont Nature Preserve, swapping that to the county in exchange for Dale Creek, which has long time been leased from the county by the village, which consists of the area from Grange Avenue to Southway. And over that, since the mid-90s or so, the village has been responsible for the maintenance of that area, except for the creek bed itself. We've been able to use the land, or residents have been able to use the land for general park uses and events and those types of things. There has been still an approval process for anything new or any structures that we would want to add to the park would have to go through a county process. The county has been, while they've been responsible for the creek bed maintenance, there's certain things, there's 65 or so trees that we've identified that are dead that should be removed, that have not been prioritized by the county just because there's so many other areas of land they have to maintain. So that's an area that, as we discussed earlier tonight, that we are going to make we're going to budget to have those trees removed so they don't pose any issues of falling and either causing, damming up the creek or falling on some property, posing any safety issues. So again, the Dale Creek area, by having ownership of it, the village will be able to not have those separate approvals as far as some of the use and some of the structures. It would also make sure it's maintained by the village in a way that we see fit for our community. I think there's been a lot of pride in that park as being kind of our central downtown park, and so I think even since 3 years ago when I first started here, a lot of people, several people would say, hey, wouldn't it be great if that was the village's park? And I think there's just a sense of pride in that. Some of the details of the exchange, there's a couple of restrictive covenants documents are in your packet that you would approve tonight as part as that would get filed with the quitclaim deeds. The Dale Creek Parkway is, so it'd be about 22 acres that the village would be obtaining. It will remain designated as park. That was already zoned as park. And again, the uses are exclusive for public benefit and park uses. As far as the Grudemont Nature Preserve site, as the village attorney previously discussed, there are deed restrictions on that property that'll extend at least 40 years from the date of the transfer. So the board packet included maps of the land to be swapped. As I mentioned, it includes the restrictive covenants that should be approved by the board tonight. And though Trustee Unger could not be here tonight, she did have a couple of typos that she found. So in both declarations under H, enforcement, there's just one typo. Instead of saying beneficiary shall have the right by, it should say beneficiary shall have the right but not the obligation. So a correction there. And then the signature notary block was missing on the county agreement on the declaration, on the first declaration. So with those changes, staff recommends the approval of the land swap and the restrictive covenants as presented.
Thank you. Good update. I'd like to make a motion to the village board to approve the land swap and restricted covenants involving the village of Greendale, transferring the Grudemont Nature Preserve, tax parcel 666-9999-002 to Milwaukee County in exchange for a portion of the Dale Creek Parkway, tax parcel 651-9988-002, located between Grange Avenue and Southway, subject to the approval and the certified survey map to divide the Dale Creek Parkway property.
I'll second that. Any other discussion? No. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Alette?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye. Thank you.
If I could just note one more thing informationally. So June 10th is when the county Parks Committee will be taking this up. So the county, it still needs to go through the county approval process. So Parks Committee, June 10th, and then I believe it goes to the full county board, I believe later this month. So I believe the county's approvals should be completed this month. Oh, I'll obviously report back.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you for everything you've done on this and anyone else involved. There's been a lot of work that's gone into this. And I'm super excited. I know a lot of us are. This is something that has just been something we've all wanted in Greendale for a very long time. So to have it as ours now, it's pretty awesome. So thank you for everything on that. Really appreciate it. All right. Item C, BOT 2557, discussion and action on a certified survey map submitted by the Village of Greendale to create separate tax parcels for Reserve C, D, E, and F relating to tax parcel 651-9988-002 owned by Milwaukee County.
The land to be acquired by the village is actually part of one very large regional parcel, and so there needed to be a land division to separate that out. And so our village engineer did the survey work to produce a certified survey map that would divide that 21.9 acres away from the remaining county parcel. So it was reviewed, it was presented to the Plan Commission on May 7th and recommended for approval. At this time, recommend the village board to approve that certified survey map.
I'd like to make a motion for the village board to approve the certified survey map to create a separate tax parcel for Reserve C, D, E, and F relating to tax parcel 651-9988-002 owned by Milwaukee County and outlined by Manager Haas.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Berbian?
Affirmative.
Trustee Fickmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zaborski?
Aye, thank you. Item D, BOT 2558, discussion and action regarding an ordinance to repeal and upgrade section 1.47, Children's Garden Committee.
So on May 20th, the village board approved updated bylaws or new bylaws for the Children's Garden Committee to refine its organizational structure and clarify some of its purpose and scope language. And as part of that, it was noted that the village code would need to be updated to reflect some of those changes. So in your packet is a proposed ordinance to make those changes. Some of the highlights of the ordinance include it provides a purpose section that incorporates the new mission statement from the bylaws. It clarifies that Children's Garden includes both the garden and the area, immediate area that's designated for the board for use. It establishes the composition of the committee to consist of 11 members, with one of the members that may be filled by a village board member. It specifies the committee shall elect a chairperson, secretary, treasurer, and any other additional officers deemed necessary. And then it outlines the functions and duties in their role in overseeing the garden itself, maintenance and activities. And so with that, staff would recommend approval.
I would like to make a motion for the village board to approve the proposed ordinance subject to the final review by the village attorney.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
Just have one question.
Yep.
So this really isn't, until the village attorney gets back to us, this isn't in effect yet?
Correct. So we use the same template that we've used for other committees. So I don't think there should be anything materially that the village attorney would get back with there being any material issues that need to come back to the village board. But as far as the actual, the language of the way the ordinance is laid out, those are things that the village attorney would take more of a technical review of it. But obviously if there is any material issues, they'll bring it to our attention. But so more of a technical review that it's all numbered and formatted correctly.
Okay, just wondering.
One question for you. What is the intent regarding the members of the committee? Is there going to be a certain standard as to who would qualify to be appointed as a member? Like village residents or anything?
Village residents, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll make a
I think that'd be the only thing, right?
Yeah, well, we had some discussion separately. You know, we recently updated the Historic Preservation Commission ordinance, so we've had some discussion about that. So I think, you know, the questions relating to, are we addressing it, you know, consistently as far as the residents?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Just we have the same language in all of our committee ordinances.
Correct. Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Berbian?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Alette?
Aye.
President Sabrowski?
Aye, thank you. Any officer reports this evening?
I would just note, tomorrow is our Plan Commission meeting. We do have an application by developer Barrett Lowe Visionary Development on the redevelopment of the former Boston Store property. That is a plan development overlay district application on the general development plan portion. So again, there's a public hearing that's been noticed for tomorrow, and then it'll be, after the Plan Commission's recommendation, will come to the village board most likely June 17th. That is the first phase of a plan development overlay district. The next phase then will be the precise implementation plan, which will be the more detailed application relating to phase one. So this is kind of the general development plan that touches all these different high points of the development, and then they'll come back and say, all right, now there's more detailed engineering, architecture for phase one, and then they'll do phase 2 and 3 and 4. So that, again, will be tomorrow at 5:30, and this will be the second meeting now that will be streamed on YouTube as well for our Plan Commission meetings.
Question, I was reached out by a few people today and I don't know if there's something in the press, but supposedly Boston Store is coming down in July. What I heard last was more in fall.
I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, as you know. I think the developer would like to get started. There's some interior type of abatement type of work that would start, and so right now we're seeing if that's possible to happen concurrently with everything else that's going on. But we anticipate demolition in fall as a realistic target at this point. Whether they can get in there and get an earlier start, we'll see as far as next month. But yeah, it's always the goal, just to start as soon as possible, but a lot of moving parts going on.
Okay.
We have the keys, so let them in.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir, Chief.
It's a real quick update with the training facility. They started yesterday. Looks great. They power washed it, patched a few of the rust spots, primed half of it today. Looks really great with the gray. By the end of the week, it should be done in beautiful green.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
Cool. I'm talking about Sutton Lane right now.
And is the inside done? Is the inside done now?
Inside.
Everything? Can we have a tour?
One safety issue is still B metals is taken care of.
So we can have a tour?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
You wanna come in, put your mask on, and smoke it up for you.
Oh, okay. Don't know about that.
And you see how you can see.
I just wanted to mention, I know Mary had mentioned Sutton Lane, so that was originally part of just our regular mill and overlay process that we were doing in spring. When we exposed it, we realized the base surface underneath the surface layer of asphalt was absolutely terrible. We didn't have that in the contract for them to make that repair, so I had that repair added. That's why that portion of road is still opened up. We haven't forgot about it. In order for us to kind of stay on budget, we are having them come back when they start asphalting for the 2025 projects. If we would ask them to come back sooner, we would have to pay an additional mobilization fee, which would put us far beyond what we intended on paying for it. So it's going to be a few more weeks, but it is drivable. You can drive through it, but just wanted to give you an update.
A few more weeks, you said?
2 to 3 more weeks, yes.
Okay. I've been asked about that too.
All right, thank you. Citizens' comments. Persons wishing to address the board are asked to state their name and address for the record and limit their comments to only one time, and limit their comments to 3 minutes or 5 minutes representing a group of persons. Since comments shall be limited to a period not to exceed 15 minutes, public comments should be addressed to the village board as a body. Any questions or comments directed to any individual trustee or staff person will be deemed out of order. Please note the village board can only discuss matters listed on the agenda. We are open.
Joe Russ, 5599 Basswood Street. I've heard the new Cooper's Hawk in Greenfield is really nice. I've also heard it was supposed to be part of the Boston Store redevelopment you guys have been sitting in, doing anything with for the past 4 years. They got tired of waiting, but I think they got a better location anyway. Speaking of redevelopment, kudos. You got rid of the sound of crickets. One of the many problems with this redevelopment, aside from the second TIF on the property in 13 years, and the developer using a company, the DOJ has filed a complaint with for rent price fixing. Great job preventing a developer. But in the process, it seems you forgot how Greendale got here. What I'm holding in my hand, and I'm going to pass around, are the original leases that my grandparents signed back in 1938. I believe they're probably one of the few in existence, and it's probably one of the few that an original owner, or a descendant of the original owner, still has. You will note that the cost of rent back then was $25 a month. If you wanted a garage, it was an extra $2.50 a month. It was built for low and moderate income families, not for the upper crust you guys are shooting for with these apartments. One of those families was my grandparents. You notice it was dated June 18th, 1938, because up until that point, it was used for the village offices, is what I've been told, because Village Hall wasn't complete. I suspect I'm one of the few, if not only third or fourth generation owner who still retains such documents for the property they currently own, and has never left their family. Second generation owners, sorry, you come up short. With the proposed redevelopment of Boston Store, you are showing how far the village's leadership has fallen from the village's original intent of being an affordable community. President Brinkman, his picture's up there, probably wouldn't approve. Greed has taken over, and I've seen it firsthand over the last 20 years of attending these meetings. And this project is the icing on the cake. You guys can't even follow your own budgets. Thank you.
Hi, Pam Kenya, 8861 Woodbridge Drive. I came here tonight because I wanted to speak briefly on behalf of the Greendale Children's Garden. First, I wanted to extend our deepest gratitude for your support of our children's garden. Your commitment to allowing us to foster a designated space where young and older minds can explore and learn and connect with nature will keep making a lasting impact on our community. Thanks to your encouragement and backing, our garden has become a place of growth, not only for the plants we nurture, but also for the children, families, and seniors who find joy, inspiration, companionship, and good nutrition from all aspects of our garden space. We thank you for your leadership and your dedication to enriching our village and creating opportunities that will benefit generations to come. As we have recently been part of the restructuring plans, have official new bylaws, and they're in place to guide us, and almost a clearly defined ordinance, we take great continued pride in our commitment to our children's garden and our mission. The Greendale Health Department, in partnership with the Children's Garden, has been approached by ARP. They wanted us to submit a short narrative and include a few pictures to address how we're helping to support food insecurities in our community. In Greendale, among households receiving SNAP benefits, which are Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Programs, 45% include children under 18 and 50% include older adults. This is impactful information. It's 10% of the households. That's not insignificant. A few more highlights to note. We're going to continue our partnership with Summer Park and Rec Summer Campers. We've set Mondays at 10 o'clock to again teach the kiddos to harvest, clean, bag, label, and weigh the produce that will be delivered to the seniors on Tuesdays or Fridays. You'll find our committee members in the garden every Wednesday morning, weeding, watering, and whatever, weather permitting. These schedules make it easier for visitors to the garden to plan when they may want to drop by. This season, we have a goal. We'll be holding one event per month at the garden during the farmers market on Saturday mornings. Our first event is June 21st, which is the opening day of the market, and we'll be creating Butterfly Sippers. It's a butterfly relief station for friends from our butterfly and pollinator garden. You're going to want to come with your kids. We have a plan to actively involve more of the younger kiddos this season in our garden activities and themed read-alouds, as well as mentoring from our middle schoolers, and we'll be creating a pizza garden, among other specialties. We'll be at the Greendale Cookbook ribbon cutting with Betty's Salsa, a favorite from the garden, using garden produce. Watch for us on the garden walk in July. We're the last stop. In the meantime, please check out the mailbox at the garden. It'll contain informative garden tips that you're welcome to take. This month, we're featuring companion planting, which plants play well with others. I wanted to add that we've worked really hard to establish and nurture our partnerships, raise money, work on wish lists, and procure grants. We're proud of our accomplishments, and we'd love for you to come by. Don't hesitate to stop anytime, ask questions, grab some lettuce, or get your hands dirty. I wanted to remind you what our mission statement is. It's a space for promoting gardening and outdoor opportunities among children, fostering intergenerational community involvement, and maintaining, growing, and sharing from our garden space. A space that provides educational opportunities related to gardening, nature, and environmental stewardship for children or the child in all of us. So again, we can't thank you enough.
Thanks, Pam.
Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you.
You do a great job.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Motion to adjourn, I'll second it. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
We're adjourning before 8 o'clock.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Alette?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
No.
Thank you. 3-2 vote.
Still feels good.
That was close.